Steve Jobs, before he died, did a famous interview with the New York Times where he admitted that his own children do not use an iPad. They don't have devices in the home. They have very limited screen time altogether. Bill Gates' children had a limit of 45 minutes maximum per day of screen time, and it was cut off in the evenings at a certain point. His children were not permitted to use cell phones until they were in their teen years, and that was for talking, not smartphone use as we consider it today. His wife says, "We wish we would have been even more strict than we were." Current Apple CEO Tim Cook came out in an interview with the same thing. He doesn't have his own children, but he said, "I wish and hope my own nephew would not use social media. I don't want him on there at all." Adam Alter of the very good book Irresistible tells of interviews he did with video game designers, where the video game designers themselves admit, "We don't even touch the video games because they're so addictive." What do all these people know that the rest of us are in the dark on? What does the guy who invented the like button, working for Facebook and all the other social media, has followed suit with the like button? He regrets inventing that and says, "I wish I'd never done it." And he says it becomes very addictive, and he calls Snapchat digital heroin, and he has no social media apps on his phone at all. Alex Constantinople, the CEO of the Outcast Agency, another tech firm, her little children, ages 3 and 5, have zero screen time at all. Her older children, it's very limited. And it's not just her. You consult all of the millennial-aged parents who have been building these technological tools at the big Silicon Valley companies. There have been a number of exposés, investigative articles that have probed into how do these parents live life with their children. Not the way the rest of us are, that's for sure. They have contracts with their nannies that my 3-year-old will not be on a smart device. In fact, the nannies are going to be off their phones and doing things with the children. Where do they put their children in school? The most sought after school in Silicon Valley is the Waldorf School of the Peninsula, which uses very primitive methods of learning. Number 2, pencils and gardening and things that we would call true education. So in Silicon Valley, it is uncool to have your little kids using smart devices. Why is there a stigma about that from the people who are making these applications? Why do the biggest names, the CEOs, the inventors of these tools, if you can call them that, why do the tech magicians who know the wizardry of big tech come out and admit these things? What do they know that the rest of us don't know is the question everybody is asking. Is it any coincidence, first of all, that modern media was born in 1844? You know that modern media is a tool because I'll tell you something, there's a spiritual controversy with the media use issue.
Your behaviors, you don't realize it, but you are being programmed.
God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains.
2.7 times increased likelihood for depression. We saw every mental health problem skyrocketing. 3-fold increase in teen suicide for girls aged 12 to 14. Why isn't this on headline news every night? I mean, this is huge stuff. The average person does 4 times more social media than social. They do 4 times more anti-social media than socializing.
It literally is a point now where I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works.
Children's screen time, the majority of parents have zero interaction with their children at all during those times of childhood media use. They are spending twice as much time just watching Netflix as spending quality time with their kids. I love it when researchers finally come out and just say it. They're like, it's contaminating the family environment. It's catastrophic in its effect on family life. They're losing emotional intelligence, social intelligence, facial expressions, bodily gestures, all the things that are a part of human communication are being lost on a generation. He's like, we're ripping apart the social fabric of the country. You couldn't come up with stronger language because these are the guys that invented it and they're doing their apology tour. So the love of most will grow cold in the last days. And now we're witnessing in the studies a measurable 40% decline in people's empathy. So the research is showing the Bible to be true and showing that we are in the last days. But what is causing this? And so you see yourself, like your social media persona is you. And this insecure generation, the gospel has the answer to this. He says you are worth more than many sparrows. Don't be beaten down by your feeling of how you're perceived on social media. What is the God-ordained, divinely designed life? 45%, almost half of teens now admit that they're almost constantly on their devices. The majority of 11-year-olds today have never climbed a tree. Children spend twice as much time on video games alone than all outdoor activities combined. Why is it that 3/4 of children spend less time outdoors than prison inmates spend outdoors? We have made for our children a virtual prison, although they're not the criminals we are if we are permitting this.
You've got mail.
That thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while. You're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology.
Weaponized media, that is what we are dealing with. Well, big tech is doing everything they can to overrule our self-regulation. Your brain on Minecraft looks like a brain on drugs. He says it's actually easier to treat a heroin addict than a true screen addict. It's the exact same methods of addiction that big tech is using, that the casinos have been using.
The inventors, creators, understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
Remember that when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall raise up a standard against him. And remember that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Yeah, we call it a smartphone. It's because the phone is smart, and we don't have to be that smart to use it. He's literally not just watching a video, but take a look. Oh yeah, let's scroll through Instagram and see what else is on there. A chimpanzee can use social media. I never thought I'd see the day. Well, not only is Google storing our facts for us, but they're going to start doing our thinking for us, and already have actually, and that's dumbing us down dramatically. Are we now, in the 21st century, entering upon a new dark age? The largest and most standardized and most centralized form of attention control in history. The mass mind can be shaped now in the 21st century like never before. This is something that is programming your mind. You are not in control of your thoughts. When you are subjected to big tech's manipulation, they are doing what Edward Bernays only could have dreamed of. So there's so much hope when Jesus says, whom the Son sets free, he is free indeed. So we can be freed from the manipulation, freed from the addiction, and we can say, yes, it is no longer I who live, but Christ who liveth in me.